Support for Archiving Airwaves, the Miley Collection, is provided by IU Credit Union, offering mobile access to IU Credit Union accounts, helping account holders check balances, transfer funds, and pay bills through their mobile devices. Available in the IU Credit Union apps for iPhone and Android, and by WTIU members. Thank you.
Joe DiMaggio is really a picture up there at home plate. Yes, he's really something. It's a long drive going high up over the left field pavilion, and it's a home run for Joe DiMaggio. That ball was almost over the roof out in left field. Warren, how far was that apple really hit?
Well, it hasn't come down yet, Tom, so we can't estimate.
Needs only one more pitch, if it can be the right one. Wilhelm kicking around a little bit out on the mound. Now checking his side. Bauer guarding the plate. Here it comes. He swings, and there's a high pop up in the right field. It may be. Gardner going back. Tasby in. Gardner's got it. A no-hitter for Wilhelm. He's got a no-hitter. Wilhelm pitches the first no-hitter in modern Oriole history, and he's mobbed by his teammates.
And the Yankees have tied the game. In the top of the ninth inning. Well, a little while ago when we mentioned the fifth one in typical fashion was going right to the wire, little did we know. Art Ditmar throws. Here's a swing and a high fly ball going deep to left. They do it. Back to the wall goes Berra. It is over the back corner, and the Pirates win. Over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I say there's three different aspects to a great broadcast. You need a good crowd, you need good announcers who know what they're doing, and you, of course, need a couple of teams that are playing.
After 156 games, each 2 more than the regular schedule calls for. The Bums from Brooklyn, the Giants from New York have come down to the wire to where it is all or nothing. What happened before, even the Giants' closing rush from 13 and a half out, will be forgotten when the final decision is rendered at the Polo Grounds this afternoon. 20 years from now, the fans will be talking about this afternoon's hero as yet unknown, but the man and the hour are about to meet.
Let me tell you where I was when the game happened. I was a cadet in charge of quarters at West Point. They have a cadet in charge of quarters each day. I was 1951, I was a junior. On the radio, I was listening to the game. Who was I listening to? Red Barber.
Runners take their lead. Lockwood waits. The right hand is around there. The ball hit into left field for a base hit. Barnes is coming in to score. And coming in to third is Mueller. And around the second goes Rockman. The tying runs at second base.
Boy, I'm telling you what they're going to say about this one, I don't know. Bobby Thompson, the batter. The outfield deep and very much to the left. Ralph Frank on the hill in favor of Newcomb. Rube Walker catching the pitch to Bobby. A strike call off the knees. Quick curve. The Franco ripped right in.
Bobby hitting at 292. He's had a single and a double, and he drove in the Giants' first run with a long fly to center. Brooklyn leads at 4-2. Franco throws. There's a long drive. It's going to be a lead. The Giants win the pennant. 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 Bobby Thompson hits into the lower deck of the left field stand. The Giants win the pennant, and they're going crazy. They're going crazy. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I do not believe it. Bobby Thompson hit a line drive into the lower deck of the left field stand, and the same place is going crazy. The Giants win it by a score of 5-4, and they're picking Bobby Thompson up and carrying him off the field.
I remember listening to the 39 Rose Bowl when I was a kid.
We're looking forward to a great battle between the two star teams of the nation.
Duke was playing USC, and Duke was undefeated, untied, and unscored on.
Here come the Duke Blue Devils out onto the field. They're in their blue uniforms. New trousers, new jerseys, the trousers with white stripes down the side.
And the last part of the game was unbelievably exciting. With about 2 minutes to go in the game, USC got the ball, and their fourth-string quarterback, Grady Lansdale, led them down the field to what turned out to be a touchdown.
Throwing a pass out there to Kruger, and it's complete across the goal line. It's complete across the goal line. Touchdown. It's a touchdown. Southern California goes out and scores 6-2-3 in front of Duke University. Oh, what a ball game this is.
And here Duke's season was gone, undefeated, untied, unscored on, until a minute was left in the entire season, and they got beat 7-3. The three announcers that I really enjoyed when I was a kid were Bill Stern, Ted Husing, and Harry Wismer.
Mel Allen, I really loved listening to Mel Allen too. When I was at West Point, I could hear a lot of New York Yankee games, and I just was enthralled with his broadcasting.
Well, I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe I have the best and most comprehensive sports audio and video collection that has ever been had.
2 strikes and a ball. Mitchell waiting, stands deep, feet close together. Larson is ready, gets the sign. 2 strikes, ball 1. Here comes the pitch. Strike 3. Another hitter, a perfect game for John Larson. Yogi Berra comes out there. He leaps on Larson, and he's swarmed by his teammates. Listen to this crowd roar.
In the mid-'70s, I was at KMOX Radio in St. Louis, and I just decided on my own, let's do a weekend retrospective about the 3 World Series that the Cardinals were in the 1960s. All the games called by Harry Caray and Jack Buck on KMOX.
But I came across KMOX, and they're playing old Stan Musial highlights. My favorite player of all time, Stan Musial. So, I've got everything that Musial ever did, right? No, he had some stuff that I didn't have. So I'll be doggone if after the program's over around 10:30 in the morning, I picked up the phone.
And he just called out of the blue, got connected to the sports office at KMOX. We had a conversation. He invited me to come to his home. And I drove to meet him in Evansville.
He picked out several things that he wanted to hear.
And I was stunned by what he had even then in 1976 and how precisely he had it cataloged. Now, some of it was among the greatest moments in sports history. You know, Lewis knocks out Schmeling, or Jesse Owens at the '36 Olympics, or some sort of scratchy broadcast of the 1933 World Series.
One year, CBS called me. They wanted to play highlights of old World Series games. They were doing the World Series on radio, and they wanted to play highlights of old World Series. They gave me a list of 48 World Series highlights that they wanted from the past. I had all 48 of them.
2 away, Cochran on second base. Goslin batting. It's the last half of the 9th inning. The ball game tied up 3-3. Brent Stetson on the mound. He's getting a signal. Here's the pitch, and a drive going out to right field for a hit. And here comes the throw to the plate. Here comes the run in, and the ball game is over. And the Detroit Tigers are the new champions of the world.
When I got to NBC and later to HBO, anytime we were doing historical stuff, one of my suggestions was, let me check with John Miley. And very often he had not only what we were looking for, but more than we had asked for related to that topic or that game or that broadcaster.
Everyone comes to me, the major networks, the players, the relatives of the players, fans of the sport in particular, people who know about my collection, and wonder what in the world does he have.
We did a tape for Oakland, as we did for Marty and Joe and Harry Caray. We did a tape for Oakland's 25th anniversary, and they gave the tape away to the first 10,000 that came in the ballpark.
I got all the cassettes and reel-to-reels in here, including large reel-to-reels that I used to make my Notre Dame tape, which was sold up at the Notre Dame bookstore.
No one And I mean the archives of the networks. I mean the Smithsonian, if they've archived any of this stuff. I mean the respective halls of fame in Cooperstown, Springfield, and Canton. No one and no entity has as much stuff and as precisely cataloged as John Miley does.
There's whole television series that never got recorded and saved because they were just considered disposable.
Super Bowl III, when Joe Namath and the Jets upset the Colts, to my knowledge, no one had the full game. Things just disappeared. Don Larson's perfect game just disappeared.
Television stations would tape over them. So the only way that you would have access to a lot of these recordings is if somebody took the time to record them on their own and then maintained them.
The spine-chilling sound of baseball history being made. It's moments like these that fuel the passion of John Miley of Evansville, Indiana, owner of the world's most complete collection of baseball audio.
My collection started probably back in the 1940s when my parents bought me a wire recorder. At that time they didn't have tape recorders.
Whatever I would record, I just take this microphone, I would start the recorder, however you start the recorder, I don't remember that. But when you start the recorder, then you just take this microphone and you put it next to the radio.
And I remember taping the thing that really got me started was the California Northwestern Rose Bowl in, I believe, 1949.
He's rolling wide, he's up, cuts off left tackle, and Denson, and he's into the clear. He's down to the 40, he's down to the 30, to the 10, and he's over for the touchdown.
I had no idea what I was doing, really. What I was trying to do was, I knew that when I retired, I would want something to do, and what better than listen to old sporting events.
Billy Cannon watches it bounce. He takes it on his own 11. He comes back upfield at the 15, stumbles momentarily. He's at the 20, running hard at the 25, gets away from one man at the 30, still runs at the 25, at the 35, the 25, he's down to the 50, he's in the 45, he scores!
I would search the dial every night. Couldn't get the stations until nighttime. The 50,000 watt stations, you could get WEI and you could get WGN and WKMOX, etc., WLW. So I would check each one of them. I knew who was playing. I had a list of who was playing, and so I would check and see what was going on.
54-53 with 5 seconds left, and the third overtime. And it's going to be an out-of-bounds play with Parker handling. All right, 5 seconds. You know, if they get the field goal, they're going to win the whole thing, the whole championship, the whole season, everything. If they miss it, Carolina's going to get it. That's what it boils down to. All right, it's taken out by Parker. Parker throws a long one into the left side. They feed it into Stilt, and it's tapped away from Stilt. Turns into the hand of Turns, and we win. 54-53, North Carolina did it. Joe Quinn left it away, and North Carolina wins the championship, 54-53.
And he was well situated in mid-America to pick up WHAS in Louisville for a Kentucky basketball game or whatever, or to pick up WJR in Detroit and listen to Ernie Harwell. So he would just start the recorder.
Only 5 seconds to go. Kentucky has a 12-point lead. Elgin Baylor takes the last shot of the ball game. No good. And the national champion Kentucky Wildcats.
There is a distinct difference between a national broadcaster and the local or regional broadcaster, and the approaches must be different.
Here they come, Hare, Middleton, and the Buckeyes. And they're tearing down Michigan's coveted M-Club banner. They will meet a dastardly fate here for that. They have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to tear down the coveted M that Michigan's going to run out from under. And here they come, the maize and blue, taking away 105,000 fans. And they're cheering and jumping up and down in front of the Ohio State bench, and now they're coming support you, Michigan, and so does everybody from coast to coast. The coast of Lake Michigan to the coast of Lake Erie. What a football game we're going to have here this afternoon.
Most sports fans in the 50s, 60s, 70s, into the 80s and 90s even, your exposure to sport was not through national television because it wasn't on national television that often. So your exposure was through local or regional broadcasters, and they became part of your life.
It is 9:46 p.m. 2-2 to Harvey Keene. One strike away. Sandy into his windup. Here's the pitch. Swung on and missed. A perfect game.
Harry Carey with St. Louis was a sensational until he went to the Cubs. Let's put it that way. He was good with the Cubs too, but nothing like he was with the Cardinals.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Stan waits. Now the stretch from the belt. Here's the pitch. Line drive, there it is! Into left field! Hit number 3,000! A run is scored! Musial ran first! On his way to second with a double! Holy cow, he came through!
The network broadcaster should get excited when the moment objectively calls for that, but it's just not going to be the same. Plus, the familiarity is not going to be the same. So it's Don Fisher over all those years on Indiana basketball and football.
8 seconds to go. Out the Smart. Baseline jump shot in the air. Gone! 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1. The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
Not only is Don an excellent broadcaster, but the attachment, the familiarity, that voice is a voice you've heard since you were a little kid if you grew up as an Indiana fan. You attach it to so many memories and so many specific calls of specific moments. No network broadcaster, no matter how competent, can have that relationship.
Indiana's number 1. They've won it. Indiana's won it. They're the national champions for 1976.
Something that I think is really, it's almost humbling to think of, that happening all over the country, but us only being aware of the broadcaster or the couple of broadcasters that were in our area. Thinking about how that was really happening everywhere simultaneously is really cool.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it and throw to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
I spent much of my childhood in New York, so I listened to Red Barber, I listened to Mel Allen, I listened to Lindsey Nelson, to Marty Glickman, but I also, even at a young age, I was fiddling around with the dial on the car radio in the driveway long before I had a license to drive to pick up distant broadcasts. So when I was 11 years old, I knew who Bob Prince was. I knew who Chuck Thompson on the Orioles was.
I remember as a kid driving around with my dad, who was a salesman, so he drove 60,000 miles a year, and he always had 700 WLW on in the car, listening to Reds games with Marty Brennaman and Joe Nuxhall. That's embedded in my memory, because when I was 11 years old, or 10 years old, the Reds won the World Series.
Lansford, good hitting Oakland third baseman, steps in, levels a bat. And Myers bringing it. And the pitch is hit in the air. Foul off first. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Back in around 1975, I had been using TC-105, Sony TC-105 units. Every time I would need new recorders, I would call Long's Electronics, which is no longer in existence, in Birmingham, Alabama. I said I need 2 more of my Sony recorders, and she said, you know, John, you should be aware, Sony no longer makes that recorder. This was 1975 or so. And I said, oh, really? I said, do you have any in stock? And she said, yes, we do have. And she went to check out to see how many she had, and she had 40 units in stock. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll call you back and let you know how many recorders I want. So I went to my pad and figured out how long I thought I was going to live, and I knew how long those units would last because I already lost a couple of them, wore them out, and just divided this and multiplied this and so forth and so on. I figured out I'll need about 15 of them before I'm 80. Figuring 80 was the day I was going to stop, which I'm 93 now and I haven't stopped yet. But I have stopped using the units. So I called her back and I said, give me 15 of the units. So they were like a little over $200 a piece, which was a nice little sum, but that was my life. And so I purchased them. But there's only one of my TC-105s that is operable right now, and it's one right behind me. Unbelievably, it's still going, but it's not going to be going very much longer. But neither am I.
There was an article written about me in a local paper in 1977 by a local sports writer, and he had found out about my collection. He came out to interview me, took a picture, and had a really nice interview in the paper, and I got a lot of comments on it. And meanwhile, I was taking the Sporting News at the time, which was the baseball newspaper of the world at that time. One of their writers was a guy by the name of Bill Madden, who now is in the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame writer. And he wrote an article, a column or article, whatever you want to call it, every week on the sports collector. Well, that interests me very much, so I would listen. I would read about the sports collector every week. And I got to thinking, you know, I wonder if he'd like to know something about my collection. So I don't know how I got it, but I got his phone number. And immediately he answered the phone. And I told him who I was and what I did. And he sounded interested. And he said, John, we're going to do a story on you. And he wrote a sensational article. I had 2 people taping for me at the time. And I mentioned that to him, and he put it in the article. And at the end of the article, unbeknownst to me, he says, okay, here you have it, folks. If you want to join John Miley's tape network, contact him at Post Office Box 5103, Evansville, Indiana, 47715. It wasn't 2 days before I started getting letters. I got about 50 to 75 letters from people around the country, 1 or 2 overseas. So anyway, all these people started taping for me, and that's the reason that I have all this collection. It is unbelievable what they did for me.
I am on the air with Jack Buck, and he's interviewing me.
Every time I see you, you hand me a tape of days gone by, and you have the biggest collection of sports tapes in the country.
Well, I believe I do, Jack. It is a large collection, and I've got a lot of things, especially of yours.
We had a nice 1 or 2 minute interview. It was very short, but he did a good job interviewing. I really enjoyed the interview because I enjoyed Jack Buck. At the end of the interview, he gave out my number. And he says, if anybody wants to contact John Miley about what he has in his collection, here's his number. And I immediately said, I had time to say it, I said, wait a minute, I said, don't call now because there's nobody there. I'm here and I'm not at home, and I'm the only person in my company. And I got a call on Tuesday morning from a gal who said, I heard you broadcast on KMOX the other day. She said, Pete Reeser was my brother. I said, I don't know what you're talking about, Pete Reeser. He was a very exceptionally good center fielder for the Brooklyn Dodgers before Duke Snider. So I said, well, let me go see what I have. So I went into my room and checked on the computer, and I find that the one thing that I have, I know I have other things, but one thing I had was immediately caught my interest. I went back in to pick up the phone. I said, you know what? All I've got is Pete Reeser hitting a home run in Game 3 of the 1941 World Series. She said, what? I said, I knew that she would be thrilled to death. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to send it to you. So I sent it to her, and she sent me a letter back saying how much she really appreciated that. That's what makes my work so exciting and so much fun, that I'm able not only to please myself, but I'm able to please others.
He's not imposing his obsession on anybody, but he's happy to share it.
I was giving a program at the local quarterback club, playing some of my tapes, thinking they would enjoy them, and they did. So I started off my talk. As I started my talk, who comes in the back door, goes and sits down in one of the seats, far away as she can be, and I look at, I said, I don't know how I thought of this, but I said, folks, before I continue with my program here, I want you to turn around. Can you imagine Carol being so embarrassed like that?
His wife, Carol, is a lovely, lovely person.
I want you to turn around and see who just came in the room. And I want to tell you why she just came in the room. She wants to know what I've been doing in the basement for the last 30 years. So, and that was the truth. She never came down to the basement. She doesn't know what's what. She has no idea what this stuff is. Carol had the greatest doll collection. Ask anybody in town. Nobody in town had anything close to what she had in doll collection. She is a wonderful doll collector, but I have no idea what's, you just take your dolls and I'll take my tapes. Every once in a while we'll meet for supper. So, and we've had a life like that has no problems at all. We haven't been divorced yet. We've only been married 71 years or so. Indiana is going to have everything that I have, or going to at least have the opportunity to have everything that I have.
I think typical of John, turning his collection over to the Indiana Media School, his only concern, not just his primary concern, was, will this wind up in a place where it will be valued, understood, fully appreciated, and they'll take care of it?
This is a history of sports broadcasting in the United States over the last century.
I've had several announcers call me and say, hey, what do you have of Red Barber? Why do you want that? He said, I just want to see how he handled the broadcast. I don't want to copy him, but I want to see how he handled the broadcast. It is unbelievable what people will be able to do with this.
I think John, if you ever did a history of sports broadcasting, John's opinion, either on camera or as a consultant, would be valuable because he has a very broad and nuanced understanding of the history of the craft. And while he wanted anything, he wasn't saying, that's this guy, he's subpar, I'm not taping it. He taped all of it if it was of interest to him. But he could give you a pretty knowledgeable grade from, here are the people who are excellent, here are the people that are very good, here are the people that are pretty good, here are the people that should have driven a truck instead, but they were on this game and I taped it anyway.
And I know that what I do is valuable to other people.
There it is. There it is. If it stays fair, there it is, number 60. How about that? There's standing ovation. A standing ovation for Roger Maris, who got number 60.
He's on 11. He comes back upfield to 15. Stumbles momentarily. He's at the 20.
And coming in to third is Mueller. Around the second goes Rockman. The time runs at second base.
Only 5 seconds to go. Kentucky has a 12-point lead. Elgin Baylor takes the last shot of the ball game. No good.
The Giants win it by a score of 5-4, and they're picking Bobby Thompson.
Support for Archiving Airwaves, the Miley Collection, is provided by IU Credit Union, offering mobile access to IU Credit Union accounts, helping account holders check balances, transfer funds, and pay bills through their mobile devices. Available in the IU Credit Union apps for iPhone and Android, and by WTIU members. Thank you.